Alright, we are replacing a worm gear in a transfer case actuator motor. I've already got this one started, but I'll walk through what I've done so far. This is how it comes off of the transfer case. First thing we need to do is separate the motor from the rest of the assembly. There are 4 screws in the back of the motor flange. Only 2 of these will need to be removed. The other 2 actually hold the motor, the insides of the motor together. So you have the one screw that comes out is, you can see that it's directly into the housing, and the other one also, you see where it comes into the housing here. The other 2 end before the housing. So you remove these 2 screws and it should slide right out. This one I've already hacksawed the end off of. But even with the end on, it will come straight out. It'll just rotate the gear when it does that. So I just grabbed a hold of this in the bench vise and took an 1/8 inch thick file and basically filed a slot in one side about 1/16 of an inch deep. I took it out, marked it 180 degrees, and made an identical slot on the opposite side. This gives us 2 places to grab a hold of the remaining section to pull it off of the motor shaft. I grabbed onto this part and measured and marked a 1/2 inch away from the bearing face and used the hacksaw to remove the end section, which reveals the end of the motor shaft. I then put a gear puller tool in and grab a hold of the slots and then hang on to the gear puller in the bench vise, and as you tighten the screw, this should extract the remaining piece of the worn worm gear off of the motor. So there we have the end of the motor shaft. I want to make sure that's clean before we put the new one on. As you can see on the new one, if you ever have to do this again, the 1/2 inch mark where you would have to hacksaw the end off to reveal the hole to reveal the hole is marked, and also you wouldn't need to file the groove in it. It is already turned into the gear itself. So what we need to do at this point is open up our bench vise and put some just aluminum protection on the hard serrated faces so we're not marking up our motor. The new one will start on part way, so it'll basically line itself up. Just make sure your bench vise has got opens up far enough to where you're not coming apart. So then just pinch the back of the motor and the front of the new worm gear a little at a time. It should go on fairly easily, but if you do it all in one shot, if there's a misalignment, it will have the potential of bending the new part or damaging the motor bearings. I think that is on there. Take a look to see if there's any space behind. I'm going to try one more time to make sure that we're on. Okay, so we have the new one on. At this point, this part is ready to be reassembled. There's a couple O-rings, one being here, another one being on the other back side of the cover that holds the mating part. She removed the two screws, and this should slide right out as well. Obviously won't be this clean when you take yours apart. This one's already been apart and all of the grease has been removed. As you can see, the mating part has very little wear in comparison to the worm gear. You have a planetary gear setup. These smaller gears just slide out. So you can take the three gears out, clean them up, make sure you get all the old grease flushed out very well, because you'll have pieces of the shredded original worm gear in the grease, and it will get stuck in those gear teeth. So there's your other O-ring. It's probably a good idea to replace those after you get everything cleaned out. Get your small planetary gears back in. Make sure you use a nice high quality grease. Be careful when you put this back in. This small gear meshes in between the three smaller ones. It does not like to go. So you want to put the cover on. Just put the screws in to keep it lined up. Don't force it in. Just use the external gear and rotate it back and forth, and it will slide in. If you try to force it, you will break the edges of the gear teeth. Again, you don't need to put this back together until you have a good high quality grease back in. And once that's all ready, this will slide back in. Make sure it's in the right position, and you're back in business. Put your screws back together, and you're ready to go back in the car.